One of the best parts of the aquarium hobby is feeding time. So here is my ultimate guide to feeding rainbow fish. Hi, I'm Russ. I've been in the aquarium hobby now for over 40 years. And over the past few weeks, I've compiled my ultimate feeding guide for rainbow fish. Now, this just doesn't include rainbow fish, really. It's the ultimate feeding guide for all tropical fish. And in it, we are going to cover different types of food, the benefits of feeding your fish a varied diet. We're going to take a look at different feeding techniques that will bring even the shyest of feeders out to feed. And we're also going to look at the benefits of feeding supplements like garlic and vitamins to your fish. But no matter what fish you are feeding, what you need to do first is the research to find out what those fish would eat in the wild. And seeing as this is a rainbow fish video, that's where we'll start. So rainbow fish in the wild live in streams, rivers, creeks, and lakes. And they will be feeding on natural foods like daphnia, little water mites, bloodworm, insects that fall from trees into the water. They will all be part of their natural diet. So that is what you need to replicate in the home aquarium. We are so lucky with the foods available to us. So we do get the chance to offer a variety in the diet with good quality flake foods, good quality pellets like the fluval bug bite range, which has black soldier fly larvae in it. And then we can also offer frozen foods, bloodworm, daphnia, brine shrimp. And also then it's also really good to put greens in the diet. Now I often feed my rainbow fish spinach. I put spinach in a cup of boiling water into the microwave for 1 minute, take it out, cold water. It just softens the leaf a little bit. And I put quite a lot of leaves in there. And my rainbow fish love spinach. So it's always good to put that into the diet too. I am frequently asked how often I feed my fish. Now the textbook answer is 3 times a day, but the textbook doesn't live in the real world. So I'll be honest, my tanks get fed once a day. And I do make sure that I feed enough food to get down to the bottom feeders, but I don't feed enough food that it's going to start poisoning the water. My rule of thumb, if the water's pretty much clear within 10 minutes, then that's pretty good. There are ways of feeding your fish 3 times a day if you do have a job and you work, and there are things like auto feeders. Auto feeders you can set to feed your fish throughout the day. But what an auto feeder does is stop you observing the feeding. And we'll cover the benefits of observing feeding later on in the video. But before we do, we'll take a look at the benefits of not feeding your fish. The benefits of fasting your fish for 1 day a week. Not feeding your fish has just as many health benefits as feeding your fish a varied diet. So once a week, if you refrain from putting any food into the water, that can help against things like swim bladder issues, bloat and constipation. It helps with digestive health. Fasting allows the digestive system to rest, which helps then if the fish have been overfed or they're experiencing digestive issues. It also helps maintain good water quality. All those little bits of food that don't get picked up will get picked up. And then they're not rotting in the water, and it just produces a nice cleaner environment within the tank. Fasting also helps bring out the natural behaviours. Because the fish is hungry the day after, they go hunting that food down, and it just brings out all those natural behaviours. BGN Aquariums is a growing channel, and the best way to support it would be by clicking the like button, and if you haven't already, click the subscribe. Thank you. Next, we'll take a look at feeding techniques. Now, there are a few different ways of feeding your fish. There are the feeder rings that float at the top of the tank where you can feed through. Now I think they are just for people that have a lot of floating plants, so it leaves an area open for food to enter the tank. Because I don't really see any other reason why you'd need one. I've never used one, so I can't really comment on them. I like to more scatter the food around. So I take the front of the aquarium off and and I pour food straight along the front. What that does is open the tank up with food. It ensures that everything gets a little bit of food as well, rather than it being in one concentrated area. But if you have fish that are really, really fast feeders, like the rainbow fish and like barbs, but you also have fish that tend to be a little bit slower when they're feeding, there are different ways to feed as well. Now, I have done a video on this, and I'll leave a link at the top. Now, that is a 3D printed frozen food feeder, and you put the frozen food block into there and it floats at the top of the water. And what that does is the warm water gently defrosts the food and it falls through the bottom, and it takes out any of the frenzy out of feeding. So it helps you to see if anything or everything is actually eating. When you're feeding your rainbow fish, you do have to make sure that your bottom dwellers are getting food as well. And that can be done with something like a glass tube. Just put the glass tube in, put some food into the tube and let it fall through to the bottom. The rainbow fish won't get it because it's in the tube, but it will ensure that your bottom feeders like your Corydoras get some food as well. Now, I do feed my fish garlic, and I do put an additive into the food as well for vitamins, and we will cover that later on in the video. Feeding time isn't all about what food to feed them and how much to feed them. It's also about watching them feed. So take the time to watch your fish. Observation is key. It helps you recognize stress, competition. It helps you see if the fish are in good condition. Is there any signs of disease like ick? But it also gives you the chance to see your fish with their most natural behaviours as they're hunting down that food in the water column. So feeding your fish a varied diet offers them vitamins, all those minerals and nutrients that they need. But it's also good to add a little bit more of an additive to them as well. Now, I always like to feed garlic, and I also use a multivitamin. Now, they're just great little additives to give your fish that little bit of extra nutrient that you need. But garlic has so many different benefits for your fish. So we will go into that right now. So not only will garlic prevent vampires from chomping on your fish's necks in the middle of the night, it is actually a natural stimulant. And what it will do will help stimulate the appetite of fish that are reluctant to eat, fish that are new into the aquarium, that are a little bit shy. So garlic contains compounds called allicin, which have antimicrobial and antifungal properties. So they're going to help with the fish's immune system and help them protect against infection. Also, garlic, it's suggested that garlic will help repel certain parasites. It will also enhance the coloration, which makes them look more vibrant and healthy. It also makes the food more palatable. The strong smell of garlic will be more appealing to the fish. All I do is add a couple of drops of Garlic Guard to the frozen food as it's defrosting. I add a couple of drops of Atvitol as well. And as it's defrosted, just mix it all up, and that is all you have to do. Doing this just helps encourage the fish to eat, and it just helps them get those necessary nutrients. Garlic will also aid in digestive health. It just helps with the digestion and helps the fish digest and process the food more effectively. Mistakes can be made when feeding, majority overfeeding. As I say, once the water is clear after 10 minutes, I think you're pretty much right for your feeding amount. But overfeeding can offer so many issues. Overfeeding can make your fish fat, which will bring on constipation. It can also spoil your water as the food decays. One good way of seeing if you are overfeeding is introducing snails into your aquarium. Now, snails regulate themselves. If there's a lot of food and you're overrun with snails, you're overfeeding. If you're not overrun with snails, then you've got your food amounts perfect. As I say, snails regulate themselves. They're not going to produce eggs to produce more snails for them to compete with food 6 weeks down the line. So snails are a great way of seeing if you're overfeeding. Also, ignoring variety. It is so important that you give your fish a variety of food. You'll notice it in the colours and their natural instincts. If you just stick to one generic flake food, your fish will lose interest in there and they'll just stop behaving naturally. It's just, variety is key, guys. It really is. When breeding fish, you often hear the terminology conditioning. And conditioning is a way of feeding the fish high protein foods to get them ready to give them the energy and the health they need to start spawning. Foods high in protein such as daphnia, brine shrimp and bloodworm are all great foods to condition any fish for a few weeks before the spawning process. Earlier on in the video we touched on fish that are more active during feeding time, and I told you about barbs. Now I have recently added tinfoil barbs into my other large aquarium, and if you want to know more about those, then watch this video next and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Take care.